Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman. This is the inaugural cruise of the Cruising to Solartopia show. This is a national show on environmental issues to be distributed nationwide through the Pacifica Radio Portal and other locations, including the Progressive Radio Network. We are engineered by Steve Caruso, co-hosted with Mike Hirsch, and Milo Reese and Tatanka Bricka. Our initial interview and guest is with Camilla Reese, who is one of the world's leading experts and leading activists on the issue of electromagnetic frequency. We'll join with her with Scott McCullough. This critical issue is now hitting a critical moment in terms of national legislation. In the 1990s, horrendous legislation was passed prohibiting local communities from even evaluating the installation of electromagnetic frequency towers. And I lived in a town in central Ohio where they put a tower right on the high school. God, and we were not allowed to raise health or other challenges. Now it's getting even worse. And Camilla Reese is really a great crusader on this issue. This is gonna be a half-hour show featuring her, Scott McCullough. We do have an audience of 60 or 70 people that will be raising questions as we go along. But welcome, Camilla and Scott, and all our listeners to Sailing with Solartopia, Sailing to Solartopia, and we're going to start with the EMF issue. Go ahead, Camilla, please.
Thank you, Harvey. Thank you for having us. So yes, we're here today to talk about a very urgent issue. The FCC has issued a notice of proposed rulemaking in support of its initiative that's called Build America, Eliminating Barriers to Wireless Deployments. That is exactly what they want to do. So as you mentioned, back in the 90s, actually 1996, in the Telecom Act of 1996, there was a Section 704 that preempted local governments influencing the siting of these towers and antennas on health or environmental grounds. And we were on your program before talking about a collaborative nationwide initiative called 704 No More, 704nomore.org. That is a legal, legislative, and grassroots advocacy effort to dismantle Section 704 and to restore individual rights to legal recourse, and which has basically not been possible. So anyone on the call who would like to join that effort, support that effort, go to 704 No More, and we welcome support. We need everybody. But then in the meantime, despite this 704,
What is the name of the website, Camilla, please?
704nomore.org.
The numbers,
Right.
704, and then no, more, MORE, with no space or period,
Right.
.org.
That's right. That's right. And so that effort is in process. It's a legal, legislative, and grassroots effort. And in the meantime, the FCC has issued a notice of proposed rulemaking that would strip away all remaining rights that local communities have to influence these antennas, such as, related to zoning, aesthetics, historic preservation, whether if there was not a proven gap in service, that could justify new antennas. They're talking about taking everything away. And partly, I'm sure, because several cases have been won fighting these towers on these other grounds, including with the help of Scott McCullough, and an effort called Stop 5G. That's a part of Children's Health Defense, as is 704 No More. So now, these new rules, if they're passed, there's going to be no longer will there be public comment periods, no notifications of installations. Tower could go up right outside your home. No reviews whatsoever, including environmental reviews. No required setbacks of the infrastructure from a home or a school or a hospital. No influence on aesthetics grounds and how how appropriate they are for the neighborhood. Um, let's see, no need to prove a gap in service. And basically, we're going to get constant surveillance, which ironically, when I read through these new proposed rules of the FCC, and that read through the whole document, and there was not one mention of the need for these antennas for surveillance, but obviously that is really a driving force. Um, Another thing that in this document it said that they want to prevent local governments from even hiring outside experts to assess the exposures. And I mean, think about that. They're now going up into much higher frequencies. A new spectrum has been allowed, including going up into military frequencies that are used for weapons. And now they're saying that local communities can't even assess for the exposures. So it's
And basically, the private industry wants to stick these towers everywhere and anywhere in the United States with zero local legal pushback or
That's
scrutiny.
right.
Is
That's
that
what they've
correct?
wanted all along. And that's what, I mean, they have done everything they could to enable this densification, which I think has been planned
That's
long
a
ago.
term, that's an important term, densification.
Yeah.
That means that these towers can go anywhere and everywhere. There's
Yeah.
no required setbacks. There's no required distance between towers. They even well, in my town, in Bexley, Ohio, they stuck the thing on a school, for God's sakes. And we had no legal right on health grounds to push back. And now it's worse. Is that what you're saying?
Right, that's right. And as Scott will tell you in a moment, we're talking about seeing antennas go up every couple hundred feet. I mean, if you look back historically, the industry was supportive of exposure guidelines that only measured one form of risk, so that was in their favor. They didn't have to consider other like the frequent effects from the frequencies and then the subthermal effects. They have they have done everything they can to roll out this infrastructure, and now they're at the point where we're at the end game here, where we need to get the public involved. So before we go into these rules, which I'll turn it over to Scott in a moment, I just want to say two things that I want you to, when I read through this document, I saw that it kept using the excuse that these antennas, they needed to get the local governments out of the way, state and local governments out of the way to enable all this infrastructure because it was necessary for advanced telecommunications. Now, let me just make one thing clear to everybody listening is that this is not advanced telecommunications. This is advanced surveillance. This advanced telecommunications means fiber to the premises. It's always going to be faster because it's not a shared medium like wireless. It's more secure. It's far more energy efficient. There are many different grounds on which one can explain that the fiber to the premises, not wireless, is what is advanced communication. So they're deceiving. And in fact, I'll just tell you this one quote from the former head of the FCC, Tom Wheeler, who has stated in his testimony before Congress, he says, we must insist on future-proof technology, fiber. Wireless may be a last resort option in the most isolated areas, but it should not be a first resort for most of America. The focus must change to the choice of technology, in other words, hardwired fiber, et cetera, not subsidizing companies. In other words, the subsidizing of the carriers that is happening now. So they've been very disingenuous in claiming that wireless everywhere is actually advanced technology when it's really not true. It's advanced surveillance technology. And then the second thing I want to mention is in this document, they all kinds of commentary about how new infrastructure that is being modified has to look physically like the original infrastructure. They have to look physically like it, but no mention about the frequencies that are going to happen. And so, spectrum has been opened up for 5G and military frequencies that have been used around the world for weapons. And so here we are where we are going to be vulnerable to all these frequencies. It's invisible. We won't know what's going on. And as Renette Senum, who is the former mayor of Nevada City, California, has said, they could slowly cook us, or they can take us out. It's a modern war without tanks and guns, and it's these frequencies they're planning to put everywhere, and completely unrestrained. So, um, I would like to turn it over to Scott and start with a question for Scott. Scott is the is a longtime telecom industry attorney who is now outside counsel for Children's Health Defense's 704 No More initiative and Stop 5G initiative. So, Scott, I'm wondering if you can tell me, or tell us, are there legitimate reasons why the telecom industry should be permitted to override local regulations and the will of Congress in granting local authority in the first place, simply because the regulations might slow down its antenna densification plans, to which millions of Americans object?
No, there's no reason. This is a threat to democracy. That's all it is. What's happened is folks in the local levels have figured out that this stuff is ugly and dangerous, and they're starting to uh, let their voices be heard. And some of the local jurisdictions have listened to them, and they have said no for many reasons. They can't say no based on health, but there are a list of other reasons why they can, and all of them are good reasons. Congress said that local jurisdictions are supposed to figure out the location these things are to go. They get to choose where towers are to be placed. And that means they can also choose where they are not to be placed, like on top of schools or right outside someone's home within feet of a child's bedroom window. Local jurisdictions have this authority, and now they're beginning to assert it. The Stop 5G .org effort is starting to take hold. Other activists are also having their voices be heard. And so the industry has run to the FCC to kill local democracy, take it all out of the hands of local communities, and basically just let the industry put this stuff anywhere they want, any way they want, and do whatever they want.
So
Um, Go
describe
ahead.
for us, Scott, if you would, the technicalities. What exactly is being installed, and what exactly is the litany of research that would tell us that it's not healthy?
Well, I'll let Camilla speak to the science because she's far better at it than I am. I'll only say that the science is clear, and the government has known about it for a very long time. That this radiation, just like all other forms of radiation, is hazardous to your health. It makes you sick, it gives you cancer, and it could kill you. Now, some are more sensitive than others, but I think all of us are going to succumb over time. I'll let Camilla in a minute speak to more. But it's not just the environmental, um, including, by the way, all the birds, bees, and trees, which are just as susceptible to this stuff as we are. We hear stories all over the country where they put up a cell tower, and all the animals go away. Beekeepers, their beehives die. The wildlife disappears. Trees, if you look at some of the pictures of a cell tower, these smaller ones particular, that's been there a while, you'll see that the side of the tree that's right next to the tower is dying. So it's not just humans, it's also all of life. And that is because there is a biological response. Now, you ask, what kinds of towers are there? Well, the FCC wants to give a green light to every single kind of tower there is, whether it be the old style, big, really tall, couple 100-foot towers, or things like smaller facilities on buildings like schools, or what we call a small cell, which is a tower that's 50 feet or less, therefore closer to the ground, typically put along the street. These are the ones that are really popular in residential areas. You could, people are waking up, and the next thing they know, there's people putting up this big ugly metal tower right outside their house and right next to the sidewalk, pointing this stuff right inside your house or your kid's bathroom or bedroom window. Those are called small cells. The commission wants to take local jurisdiction away for every single kind of facility there is.
So to answer your question, Harvey, more about the science, there is so much evidence, and of course the industry downplays it. They say they would need more, there's need for more research. It's inconclusive. It's just a bunch of baloney. There are thousands and thousands of studies showing, comprehensive studies and reviews showing the risks for all kinds of effects on the biological systems of the body, on the organs of the body, at the cellular level, at the molecular level, DNA. So I'll just say that we published, Richard Lear and I did a paper, it came out last February, called The Safety of Wireless Technologies, the Scientific View. And it was that we went in depth into the US Navy report from 1971 that reviewed the science at that time, before there even was a cell phone industry. It was science from military and industrial uses of the radio frequency radiation, and international studies, a lot from Russia. And so they came out with a report that showed association between these kind of electromagnetic fields and a wide range of illnesses, including 23 of today's fastest growing chronic illnesses were in that Navy report in 1971. So then after the Navy report, there have been similar extensive reviews by the Defense Intelligence Agency, NASA, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, NIH. I could go on. So there's plenty of research, including from our own government. So they turned a blind eye to this. The industry and the regulators turned a blind eye so that they could roll out all this infrastructure for multiple reasons. Initially, I thought it was just for commercial, financial reasons, but it's actually much more, nefarious kind of a plan, I think, that's unfolding before our midst. So the
It's
radiation
utterly horrifying.
is, I mean, not only their illnesses associated with, but just the daily acute exposures, like, are causing great cognitive effects. A lot of elderly people are thinking that they've got dementia, and they actually are sleeping next to a wireless router or a portable phone. I was on a summit on dementia this week, actually, talking about the similarities between the acute effects from these exposures and cognitive issues. And so it's in adults and as well as in children being impaired in schools with wireless technologies, with cell towers outside. So it's a very serious issue.
God,
So
it's
Can,
terrifying.
can I speak to it like a little bit more specifically about the surveillance piece? I'm
Yeah,
sure
the
everybody's
surveillance
heard.
piece. And then I want
Go.
to ask you very quickly, we'll go to Myla Reese and Steve Caruso, but I want to ask, is there an alternative? If we're going to have an infrastructure, a world based on cell phones, the industry says towers are necessary, but you have, just like they say that nuclear power is necessary, you have alternatives. So I want to hear about them, but go
I
ahead,
think that
Scott.
there's going to be always, I don't think cell phones are going away, but all these antennas that they're putting up now are for data collection. This isn't needed. So what we need to do, the solution is that we need to do, like many other countries are doing today, many other countries, some almost 100% fiber. We need fiber to the premises. Right now in this country, we have a lot of fiber to office buildings, but we need fiber to the homes, fiber and then after that, you use that for most of the data communication. I want to give you a quote actually from Tom Wheeler, again, who was chairman of the FCC. He said, if I can find it, here we go. The FCC has spent over 40 billion over the last decade in high-cost subsidies for wireless. that have failed to deliver the goal of universal access to high-speed broadband. And in contrast, he says, an FCC analysis shows a one-time cost of the same amount, approximately $40 billion, could reach 98% of locations in the US with fiber to the premises. In other words, true high-capacity broadband. So, it's a mix. It's going to be a mix. But this proposal, to steamroll over local governments' rights and just give themselves the right to put up antennas anywhere is not the right approach.
It's ridiculous. Well, so why are they doing it? Scott, are you saying they're doing it because
That's a
they
good
don't want
question.
they
That's
don't want
the
the
million-dollar
fiber because
question.
they don't want
They're
the
doing
fiber
it for two
because of
reasons.
why? Why don't
They're
they
doing
want
it for
the
two
fiber?
reasons. One, the wireless companies just want to provide home internet. It's a lot less capital intensive to run fiber to a tower and then go wireless the last mile. Problem is, it's much slower, it's much less secure. Wired is far better for at home. Look, we all use wireless. We need it for mobility, but the kinds of features and functions and services that they talk about in this FCC order, most of them can be done over wired connections too. Very few require what we call mobility. Here's why, the other reason why they are doing it, and one of the reasons why the federal government is trying to get all the opposition out of the way. I'm sure everybody's heard all the horror stories about facial recognition and how it misidentifies people and all the discriminatory results that are built into the algorithm. Well, now we're using AI at much even faster. These antennas actually have the ability, the small ones that are within 750 feet of each other, is creating what we call a hex net, are able to identify people that are moving around in the area that they cover, even if they don't have a cell phone. It can see your image. It can basically see how the radiation bounces off of you. It can analyze that. It can identify you. And then they use AI to figure out who you are. Well, if you think facial recognition with cameras is a horror show, well, just think of what they're going to do with this kind of stuff. This is basically to impose a surveillance and control state, which is why the government is so behind it. Now, the industry, they just want to save money. They want to say that they're providing high-speed broadband to you, when in fact it's second level, low quality service in comparison to the wired fiber connections that we know will work, that we know will last a long time, that we know you don't have to replace every 5 years. It has a much better capital and expense structure.
Unbelievable. It's a real parallel between the fight against nuclear power for renewable energy. But you guys are doing, very few people are thinking, we're really thinking of this. We're very honored to have you dealing with this for us. This will go to WGRN in Columbus, Ohio, thanks to Steve Caruso and Tim Chavez. And, this is just mind-boggling.
This is
Myla and
radiation
then
too.
Steve.
This is
Tell us
radiation.
the timeline.
It's radiation. All of the
Myla?
reasons that you oppose nuclear energy, this is radiation too. It's just
Hey,
not
Scott,
ionizing.
Scott,
Myla and then Steve, please. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
So
Myla.
the call letters for that station in Columbus, I think you said WBAI, which is
No, WGRN.
right, WGRN.
Okay.
So, at any rate, I am wondering if you can connect some dots here, and name some names. And when we're talking about this dystopian um, uh, surveillance state and our big tech overlords, I wonder if you can tell us, if you know, of the role that Peter Thiel and the company Palantir have in all of this. And of course, there's Peter Thiel's protege, our Vice President, J.D. Vance. And when you were talking about how this exposure to this 5G can actually create some kind of a dementia state. I'm wondering whether J.D. Vance could possibly, this is a kind of a joke, but is he putting some kind of a tower near our dear leader, the president, so that he can, so that, I know, Harvey, you want to talk about dementia later, and I was thinking,
Oh, we'll talk about that convention. Yeah,
but
this is a
my goodness, really is this possibly some kind of a plot to give to amplify the signs of dementia that Trump is already exhibiting? I know that's pretty far-fetched. I just wanted to throw it out there.
well, but this is a critical moment here because if we're seeing these kinds of side effects, millions of people were killed by the fallout from the atomic testing, which Trump wants to resume, and now we're seeing a similar assault on the American psyche. How serious is this really? And by the way, we're down to 7 minutes. This has been absolutely fascinating.
So can you connect it to Palantir and
Peter Thiel.
The data that is collected through the cellular network is all sent to a central repository where it is stored and analyzed and accessible to the application service providers and Palantir and others like them. Amazon wants this. Microsoft wants this. All of the big tech companies want this, not only because of the government surveillance and control, but also because they can make a better profile about you and track you and monetize the data so as to control your buying habits, for example. They know what ad to serve you. So yes, this is just a cartel of interests that are trying to institute this surveillance network that strips you of your individuality and your rights and monetizes it to your disadvantage.
Unbelievable. Steve Caruso, then Lynn Feinerman, Dave Saltman, and Tatanka.
Yeah, I remember years ago, it was a big deal when AT&T had their Nexus caught up with the CIA or some government agency, and people just blew their lids on that. And now, after that, we had the Bush administration install RFID monitors along the freeway, exits, on ramps, and on the freeway itself, constantly monitoring God knows what. I mean, those things can read 17,000 or more chips a second. So then you go, Camilla said that the ideal thing would be to go to fiber optic. Yes, that's great. But also, localized Wi-Fi calling. If you have fiber optic running to the house, you can have a low-fi or a low signal Wi-Fi that wouldn't be that intrusive like a high-powered 5G thing, whatever, doing your cell call. I have a 900 megahertz phone in the house, and it's a very low powered thing. So you can still have that.
I may want to
Go
talk to you
ahead.
about your DECT phone and your
Okay.
Wi-Fi, but the important distinction here is that you have chosen to bring that into your life. You have
Right.
chosen to use
Right.
it. Any exposure you have is voluntary. The
Right.
problem with these towers is that they are being put up against opposition and
Right.
over objection, and the exposure that you receive from them is without your informed consent. It is
So
involuntary exposure.
we've kind of normalized through all this government intrusion into our lives. Okay, it's been creeping up for years and years. All the journalists, watching this in the past is saying this is happening, this is happening. It's like a horror movie come out of some kind of science fiction thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's existing in Israel. I mean, in Gaza, this is what they're using. Microsoft backed out, and apparently Google's still on track with this stuff and supplying Netanyahu with data to attack the Palestinians.
Okay,
This is
let's go
not
go ahead.
something that isn't happening. It's happening right now on our planet. Okay. Thank
And
you.
in our towns and counties. Lynn Feinerman, Dave Salmon, we're actually down to 3.5 minutes here.
So I
Or two
want
and
to
a half.
get, before we go to the questions, I want to make sure that that Scott has a chance to talk about the timeline and the urgency of this issue. What is has the 30 days begun for comments, and what is the process that's unfolding very quickly?
And I'll be really brief. The clock for formal comments has not started. We expect that to occur sometime probably next week. What that means is that people can, have a little bit of time, but they're going to need to have their views known if they want to try to tell the FCC to come to its senses.
Unbelievable.
People
So,
can
and you
comment
put,
now. They can comment now, and they will be able to for about the next 45 days.
and give us again your website so that people can hear it on the radio as
So you
well.
go to Children's Health Defense, and I'm going to put a link in there to a petition. If people could sign and share. Also, you can learn about the 704 No More Coalition if you'd like to join. Ways that you can donate for support the legal work and lobbying. We're really ramping up this effort, and we need everybody's support. So I'll
Okay.
put it in the chat.
Okay. Go ahead, Lynn Feinerman, real quick. And then Dave.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank, I just want to thank Camilla and Scott. This is critical, really, really important work, and I'm very grateful to both of you for doing it. I also wanted to follow up with what Mila said about Palantir. Palantir is the corporate network that is the closest to the military in the United States and worldwide. And it is, it does everything. I mean, it doesn't just collect the data. And I'm wondering, this is my question, if it can, if this technology can measure radiation to people who are not even on its grid, can it also function as a weapon? If the military decides and Palantir decide that that's the next step in their surveillance game.
This technology could be deployed as a offensive anti-personnel weapon. All that would be required, and it's in the 5G and will be in the 6G standards. All that would be required, I'm sorry if I get too technical, is for them to amp up what's called the modulation and pulsation, and to increase the energy. That very quickly, it can become almost disabling to any individual.
Unbelievable.
I know
Dave
somebody
Solomon?
who was recently disabled by it.
Oh my God.
It's
Dave Solomon?
There is a way to fight this. And Harvey, you pointed out the similarity between this and the anti-nuclear movement. And I'm referring to Lovejoy's nuclear war, which was setting up of a tower in a local community. And our mutual friend, Sam Lovejoy, one evening went and knocked that tower down. And he immediately turned himself into the police, and he was put on trial, and he pleaded self-defense, and his chief witness was his 8-year-old daughter, and he was found innocent. And this destroyed, Harvey, you'll bear me out on this, this destroyed the nuclear movement in the Northeast, led to the Clamshell Alliance, and basically single-handedly was the key to destroying the nuclear power industry for many, many years until its renaissance today.
Well, that's an interesting one. Of course, there was only one tower in the town of Montague. In this case, we're talking about, how many towers are we talking about here, Camilla?
Oh, I don't know if I'm up to speed, but I would say at least 150,000 cell towers and lots of antenna farms, antenna clusters, single poles. I don't know those numbers offhand. Maybe you just got.
So they're radiating all of us. I got to say, this has been the Sailing for Solartopia radio show. We've featured Camilla Reese and Scott McCullough on the EMF issue, like absolutely terrifying. Thank you Steve Caruso, Tim Chavez, Mike Hirsch, Maya Reese, and so many others. This is an incredibly important issue, and we will be back doing this again. This is an integral half-hour broadcast to go out throughout our radio land. Thank you both so much. Thank you, everybody, on the Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Call for sticking with us. Again, sign off with Camilla. Please give us the a website for everybody to go to take action on this horrifically important issue.
Yeah, you can go to 704 No More and get
Okay.
involved there. And there's a petition that I put in the chat on this issue of the FCC proposed rules.
Well, thank you for that. And Tim, I hope you were able to edit this down. If there's any problems, call me, Steve. This was very successful. Very much appreciate both of you. This is incredibly powerful stuff. On our group call, we still have 66 people. This is the station with the website with the longest attention span of everybody. Anybody. We will come back with you both, Scott McCullough and Camilla Reese.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. I got a couple of
Tatanka
hands
had his
here.
hand up.
Tatanka, Heidi, and Patricia, and then we want to talk about, for our last 20 minutes, we have a session with Dr. Ruth and Dr. Nancy on Trump's dementia. Go ahead, please. Tatanka, go ahead. Sandy Bozenius also had a hand.
Yes.
Tatanka, are you there?
Yeah, I'll pass right now. Listen to
Okay,
the other people.
thank you. Heidi Vertauer, Patricia, and Sandy Bozenius.
Yeah, I wanted to know if there's any chance that these kinds of radiation or signal frequencies could be like the ones that were we were seeing in Cuba or wherever those places are, where the ambassadors were getting headaches and nosebleeds and all that sort of stuff.
Well, it's exactly the same kind of radiation. Dr. Beatrice Gollum from UC San Diego wrote a paper on that, on the Havana syndrome and comparing the effects that were happening to people there with the known science about the effects from radio frequency radiation. So I think since then it's been acknowledged as more widely that these people were probably being affected by microwaves, just like in the U.S. Embassy in Moscow years ago, just like in other parts of the world, in China. Yeah, these are weapons. These, especially at the higher frequencies that we're going up into now, the 5G and beyond.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Thank you for that question.
And this is urgent. It's been called a hill to die on. It's a coup. It's blitzkrieg of antennas in our midst. We have to say no. We are allowing corporate entities to shape the quality of our lives and our health, but everything else, the aesthetics, and taking away our local rights that are the heart of democracy. So we need everybody to get involved.
It's horrifying.
Please
Thank
sign
you
the
for that.
petition.
Sandy Bozenius, you had a hand up.
Yeah, this is Tammy Wilson. I was trying to talk on my computer. For some reason, you guys couldn't hear me. But if other people want to make comments to their presentation, they can go ahead because my comments weren't related to this topic.
Okay. Patricia, Mickey, and then I want to go to Dr. Ruth and Dr. Nancy to talk about Trump. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to mention that we had a group of activists years ago who tried very hard to stop the spread of these towers in San Diego. And we went to several city meetings, not just in San Diego, but in other communities close by. And I can vouch for what you're saying. They told us that according to some law that had been passed, they could not consider health considerations, which is mind-blowing.
Section
So
704, and that's why we've got the 704 No More initiative. that.
Yeah, they totally ignored everything we had to say. And also, Sluggo, I wanted to ask you if we will be able to ask a question that's not related to this still, or is this the end of the Zoom?
Well, we can squeeze it in real quick. Let me get Mickey Weeder here, and then you can ask your question, and then I want to
Oh,
get to
thank you. I just wanted to ask you if you have heard of the Election Truth Alliance, and we really, really need to help this group get a lot of traction.
Well, let's have them on next week. If you can track them down and put their contacts in the chat, that would be great.
Can I send you an email about them?
Yes, Solartopia@gmail. Send it also to Steve and to Mike Hirsch, to Myla, and to
I don't have any of
all
their.
right, go ahead, send it to me, Solartopia@gmail.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
There's one more important thing I'd like to say is that the 704 No More initiative is seeking plaintiffs. So if any of the people on the call know people who have been harmed by a cell tower, ideally a cell tower or other wireless exposure, not smart meters, but if people have been harmed or their farm animals have been harmed or their businesses have been harmed, we are looking for plaintiffs. So be in touch at info@704nomore.org.
All right, that's info@704nomore.org.